Hello everyone and welcome back to another video of Autodesk Inventor professional tutorials. In the previous video we created this 3D object using the Loft feature. It kind of looks like a vase, and we talked about the Loft with rails, but it was going to be the video was going to be too long if we covered all of it in one video. So we wanted to have a talk about the Loft with rails in a separate video. Just a quick summary of what we did in the previous video, and again, feel free to watch that one to look at the design steps. What we did is we created a sketch on the XY plane, and then we used the work plane at a certain distance, and we created another sketch on that work plane. And we did this multiple times. We created just multiple work planes at different distances, and we created sketches on those work planes, just simple circles with different diameters. And then we clicked on the Loft feature in the Create menu under the 3D Model tab. And if you expand the Loft feature, you can see all the sketches that are consumed in Loft. So, and also we talked about how we can change certain variables and how that impacts our designs. For example, we can change the diameter of the sketch, and that changes the design, of course. And we can change the distance between work planes, and we looked at how that affects the design. And we also double-clicked on Loft 2 and go to conditions, and we changed the angle and weight, and we inspected how that affects everything as well. So these are, of course, the methods that you can use to change the shape. But if you want to have more control on your design, you need to use the rails. You need to use Loft with rails. And again, if you edit the feature, you can see that there are two important parts. One is sections, and the second one is rails. All the sketches we used in this Loft are listed under sections, and nothing is listed in rails, which means that we're not given any rail information to Inventor. Inventor just uses everything we provided so far and adds the material and creates the 3D object for us. Now we want to give more information, which is Rails, and Inventor will use that information to create the 3D object. So let's delete this loft. Instead of clicking on undo a bunch of times, I want to delete it because I know that at home you're going to also delete some features and sketches, and this kind of menus will appear, and you don't want to delete something you don't want, something you need later. So you can uncheck the consume sketches. That way it deletes the feature, loft feature from the browser tree, but it keeps all the sketches, which is what we want because we want to use the same sketches for creating a loft with rails. And also for more clarity, let's turn on the visibility for all the work planes we used. In the previous video, we just kind of made them invisible so that we can look at the 3D object without the planes. So let's click on XY plane, and I'm going to hold down the control button on my keyboard and select work plane 1, work plane 2, 3, 4, and right click and click on visibility. That's going to bring all the work planes I used. So I used all these work planes and I sketched on those work planes, and I was, and then I created the loft in the previous video. So now this time we want to create rails. The important part with rails is rails that you draw must touch each sketch that you want to use in your loft. That's the most important part. So now if we want to draw something that's going to touch each one of these sketches, that means we have to create a sketch that we can draw those rails on, which means that that sketch must be on a plane that's going to cut through each one of these planes. So let's look at which plane we can use. We can't use the XY plane, but let's look at XZ plane. Yeah, XZ plane is going to cut through each one of these planes because this is just a representation. The blue highlighted rectangle is just a representation of the plane. These planes actually expand infinitely to each side. So let's use that plane to create a sketch. That way we are looking at all the other circles, sketches, planes from the side. That's why they look like a straight line. And let's just project geometry and project all those circles. So if I click on the circle, notice that it is just a straight line because we're looking at it from the side, and from the side it's just a line. And again, click on the second circle, third circle, fourth circle, and fifth circle. And now that since I'm going to use only, I'm going to use these sketches, projected lines only for references. I don't need them for the loft. I'm going to also hold down the control button and select each one of them and convert them to construction geometry. That way, these are just reference lines. And again, let's use the view cube to look at it from the side again, and let's start drawing our rails. And I'm going to click on the drop-down menu under the line command in sketch mode, and I'm going to select the spline interpolation. So now we can use this reference point, which is where the projected line and the circle meets, and you can see that green dot appears, which means that it is applying a constraint there, and it snaps into that corner to that point, so I can easily find it. And I can just maybe leave a reference point here in the middle, and I can come meet with this point, leave a reference point maybe here, and then come meet with this point, leave a reference point here, and then come meet with this point, leave a reference point here, and come meet with the last point, and click OK. Now we created this rail on the right side. And of course, we can always use these reference points to modify the spline we created. Maybe we can kind of make this a little bit like this, and maybe we can move this outward a little bit. But of course, we want to create another rail on the other side. Let's take advantage of the mirror pattern for that. And for the mirror pattern, we need a mirror line. So let's draw a line in the middle. Again, you see that it snaps in the middle because we have those projected lines in the middle of those circles. Let's come all the way to the bottom. That way, this is our mirror line. But I want to also click on this and convert that to a center line. That way, it is just a construction line again that I can use as my mirror line. Go to the pattern menu on the top and select mirror. Now the select is active. Let's select the geometry that we want to mirror. And now let's activate the mirror line and select the center line in the middle, and I will select apply. Now it is mirrored to the other side. Now let's use the loft feature one more time after we finish the sketch. Select loft and select each circle one more time. As you can see, as I'm selecting it, it is listing them under sections in the Loft menu. And let's look at it from the side. And this is what we created in the previous video. And this is what you saw as we started this video. See that it was kind of like going through here. We are seeing the preview of that 3D object. And this time, instead of creating what Inventor created for us based on the information we provided, we want to create this 3D object based on the rails. So now let's click to add under the rails and then select the rail on the right side. Now it is, kind of only using that right rail to create the 3D object. That's why it looks a bit ridiculous right now. So let's continue to add more rails. And that way we click on this rail on the other side and select OK. Now the 3D object is created using not only the sketches and work planes and also the conditions and the loft feature, but also the rails around that we created around the sketches we used for the loft. This way it gives you more control on the design you're creating. Now you can go back to the loft feature, for example, expand the loft feature and see all the sketches that are consumed. The sketch 7 now is the sketch we used for the rails. So let's double click on that and modify it a little bit. This section is maybe a little bit closer to the middle, and here this one is also closer, and let's just make this wider and this one closer maybe. Yeah, it looks completely different now because of all the changes we made. So this way, I would highly recommend to exercise with the Loft feature. It's really fun to work with, and you can use, again, Loft without the rails and see if that gives you what you want to design. If it doesn't, you can always try to draw your own rails and try to control the shape a bit more, with a bit more control. So, and also in the future, we're going to draw more rails using 3D Sketch, and which is under here, but it's a bit of an advanced feature. We're going to get into that as we talk about more complex geometries. But for now, this video was only for the loft with rails. And again, just feel free to go back and watch the previous video. And after this, we're going to continue to talk about the 3D model selections, and we're going to get into the modify menu now. And again, thanks for liking and commenting on the videos, and thanks for subscribing. See you in the next video.